All right. Well, thank you for coming today. I figured it was just easier to get everybody at one time because it's busy. We started our day. I was at Manatee at 6 a.m. We rolled out a little more than 140 buses. It looked wonderful. The sky was kind to us, for it was not raining while I was at the bus depot this morning. We know it's been a little intermittent today, but I've been blessed every place I've gone. The rain would stop while I was in the building and start when I would exit. From there, I went to Parish Community High School. Everything looked like a well-oiled machine. A lot of marking and processes and procedures logistically to maneuver through the school. Every child I saw that exited the car and entered the campus had their own mask, even though the school, of course, every school is providing some. But it's wonderful, the different, decorations, and they've made it their own thing. I left from there, went to Barbara Harvey Elementary School, and it felt like Disney World. There was a lot of music, and they had their mascot out there. And the difference in an elementary school opening today versus in the past, the parents generally walk their kindergartners into the building, and that was different this year because we were not able to allow that. We had adults and older students there to greet them, to escort them to their classes. They came with smiles and, again, their face mask and their book bags, and they were ready to go. And you would never have thought there was a pandemic or any concerns. Same thing went to Palmview after that. K-8, a lot of excitement going on there. With a new gymnasium being built, and of course that school, this is the first year, it went all the way through the 8th grade. I left there, went to Lincoln, and from there I went to Palmetto High School. Palmetto High School was just having lunch, so I wanted to kind of see the feel of how a lunch would be in high school today. Their numbers predominantly on any given day would have about half, and that's what we were hoping for our secondary schools, to lower it to about half. Their enrollment is a little over 2,000. I think on their largest 5-day and or hybrid combined is about 1,000 students, 1,079. So they're able to have adequate spacing in the cafeteria as well as the outdoor courtyard. So it was very important that the rain stopped, because most of our high schools and secondary schools do have an outdoor eating space, but with that you're hoping for the weather. So they do have to come up with alternate plans if the weather's not conducive, just to get the adequate spacing and so forth. Really, today was a day of logistics, of making sure all students felt acclimated. I know when I went into Lincoln, I went into an English class, just to see kind of the conversation. And the conversation is the same in most schools today, but really what they're wanting to know is, how are you? Do you have any concerns about coming back under the pandemic? Are there any things that we need to know of that occurred since you've been gone that we can help you with, either from at home or a standpoint from an academic standpoint? And really, those are the same questions that we're asking all of our teachers to assess our students. We really want to gauge, how have you been emotionally, academically, physically, and what are the things that we could do to make sure that this year is going to be a success for you or to help you in any way. We also need to gauge their internet situation at home. We also need to gauge, do they have a computer device at home? If and when there's a situation where they may need to go to e-learning, either through their own illness or someone else's, we can make sure that we're adequately prepared and we have a gauge from every child. And that's really why it was really important that we saw all of our students back, as many as possible, so that we could ensure that we could kind of get a gauge and assess where every child is today and move them forward. I will tell you one thing that I was really impressed with when I was at Palmetto High is they have around 600 students on e-learning out of their 2,000, a little over 2,000 enrolled. And by 10 o'clock, 500 of them had already marked present and had gone in and signed in to focus with their e-learning work. Not saying they completed their work by 10 o'clock, but they had definitely already logged in and had begun the process. So I was real pleased to see that those things were going well. I will tell you, as of today, from an opening day standpoint, very pleased, very organized. I think the virtual open houses and the communication that the schools have sent home to parents and to students to familiarize them with the process and what to expect really helped. And of course, all the news media, communicating what to expect, it really did help them to come in prepared and kind of knowing what the day was going to bring. So from that standpoint, I know Mr. Barber, you were at a number of locations as well, but from a logistical standpoint, I thought today's been very successful so far. Any questions?
Up to this point today, have you had any confirmed cases or exposures? Have you closed down partial or full schools?
That is a great question. I went to our doc center right before I came here just to find out. And as of right now at 12:30, we do not have any known cases, employee or student-wise, of confirmed of a school. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't some that may have called into a school and said, I'm staying home today because, someone in the household might have been exposed or something, but there were no discoveries once anyone has arrived at school today. And that's the only thing we're really tracking from a district perspective.
How's the staffing situation? Are you having a lot of teacher vacancies?
Actually, we do not. We knew that this year was going to be a little bit different, and we had most filled a couple of weeks ago. If they weren't filled, we kind of froze it to have a long-term sub just at the very beginning, because right now our kindergarten numbers are low. We're off, consider a few hundred right now. So we really did not want to fill every vacant spot. If I had some elementary positions that I might need to have an opportunity to transfer due to our kindergarten numbers being off. That's the hardest one to gauge each year. We've done a pretty good job, and this is just one of those unusual years. I think a variety of things, of course, could have happened that would have prevented maybe the onslaught of the arrival or people moving and so forth into the area due to, the employment situation and the COVID situation. But right now our kindergarten numbers are low. We're not seeing that in secondary or the rest of our elementary positions. But we'll probably have to do some shifts and some elimination of some of those vacant positions. So we really try not to fill them if we're seeing that we're going to have some gaps.
If there's a confirmed or suspected COVID case in any of these classrooms, in any of these schools, how is the district going to handle that moving forward?
Well, the wonderful thing is we've put together a district command office, and we have a full-time epidemiologist in there, as well as a head nurse from the health department. And they are on call answering questions from the schools or any of our buildings or so forth dealing with COVID. But one of the things we wanted to see was the spacing in the classrooms. If you have adequate spacing and you have adequate protection, it could very well be minimal. If there is a confirmed case, it could be that individual is the one impacted. Remember, you have to be under 6 feet, 15 minutes or more. Okay, you three may have a little trouble. But I'm just saying, you're not going to impact the one over here in this corner. So if you did have an infected case, it wouldn't necessarily mean the entire classroom or the entire school is going to have to be shut down. So it is vital that our schools do have the barriers or the spacing so that you can make sure that it is minimally impacted. If we do have one, then we'll address it according with the guidelines of our health department. But I know we went into Barbara Harvey Elementary. They have masks plus the petition shields. You'll see that more in elementary than you do secondary. Secondary, they're really ensuring that they have the 6 feet apart. So that's what we're going to do. I think the best thing that we can do is emphasize the mask protection and the social distancing and washing hands. I will tell you at Palmview, I entered a class, we went right before they were going to gym and right when they were exiting. All kids sanitized their hands. They got up in their lines marked in the hallway, and then they marched on to gym class like they would any other day. So it's getting those routines and those systems down.
I got to take a virtual look at the doc last week.
Uh-huh.
Just how vital will that be, especially working with the epidemiologist and having people to contact trace in case cases do pop up?
Well, I think it is vital because it's really confusing. I will tell you, they will guide us a lot better than what we would have. We probably would react a little bit more extreme than what we probably needed to or have to, because they really do define and they know what questions to ask so that we're not affecting more than what is necessary. So having the experts right there on hand daily, at least for the next 2 weeks, we'll see how long they're going to be there. I'm not sure that they're going to give of their permanent office in our district building for the length of the school year. But at least until I think we all have a system in place and we feel comfortable and we've got it managed, we just defer to them and they're the ones handling or answering questions, because every situation's different. And it's new for many people, so we want to make sure that we're handling it appropriately.
We spoke with some parents this morning, and they said something that made them kind of nervous was them not being able to go inside of the school. They're sending their kids in somewhere that they can't go inside. They said that they understood why, but it made them nervous. How important is it for parents to be patient in all of this?
Well, absolutely. We do need them to be patient, but I do understand. That's why I wanted to go personally see an elementary school. My grandson is a kindergartner, and I was just sitting there thinking, it's scary. It's scary for them to get out and go to a new place with new people that they're not comfortable with. I do think that the virtual online and those virtual meetings with the teachers up to today has helped, because many did feel very comfortable knowing at least what the classroom was going to look like, who their teacher was, and they got some feel that, would have brought them if they'd been able to go in there today. So, I do understand. Unfortunately, with protection of making sure that very few are entering that building that doesn't have to be, we're really trying to keep it as sterile as possible. And they're randomly checking, temperatures. That's a new thing. But it looked normal. I mean, it's like this is what our educational process is going to be this year. Other than the mask and those protocols, the kids were excited. They were excited to see their friends. They were excited to be back. And I think they just want their life to be as normal as possible. And I think that's what today brought them.
Let me ask you, this early in the day, when there's a lot of challenges, Manatee is one of the first districts to receive their students.
I know, what were we thinking?
Anything you learned from today that you can share with the other districts of how to get prepared for the first day?
Well, I can tell you, I do think our district command office really has helped us. And really, we put that in place after we had a couple of situations when we brought back teachers and began the year. And we thought, we need somebody to help us manage this process and an expert answering and asking questions so that we could get a handle on it. The other thing that we learned is we've got to have a screening process for all employees and all children when they come into the building, asking them those critical questions. Have you been exposed to someone? And you may think, well, that's kind of common sense if they were. Well, but not necessarily. I think you have to probe those questions to kind of, bring people into the awareness of, if you've been exposed and and it's not been 14 days, you can't come into a building. And that really has helped us. We do have to tweak it. So one of the things I would tell you, the questions, we have those same probing questions for our students. We've got to come up with a different process for elementary because they don't understand. Kindergartners don't really understand what you're asking. So we're working out that now to where we'll probably send those home, have the parents fill them out daily, but it really has to be daily because you could, have aunts and uncles or grandparents come visit you over the weekend and find out that one of them are exposed. And then, of course, their children would need to stay home just in quarantine and isolation for a bit. We want to make sure that if anyone's coming into the building, they have minimal exposure towards other people as much as possible. So those are probably the two biggest things that we've really put together and learned in the last couple of weeks. And I do realize many districts are just bringing employees back now that will help others from what we've discovered as well.
Two more questions.
Leading up until this day, compliance and enforcement has been kind of a big concern for teachers and parents sending their kids back into the school in terms of masks. Now that you've been inside the schools, what are your thoughts on the compliance so far?
Out of 5 schools, I only saw one child exit a vehicle without a mask, and we had one for them. Everyone had masks. They know that is the expectation, that's the protocol. It's not been a problem at all with any of the students or any of the employees. So I think everyone has got it, whether it's the Mask Up Manatee Coalition initiative or just the awareness now and the education that has brought it to everybody's attention. If you're out in public, it's just really one of the things you have to do. And it's just part of what's going on in everybody's world right now. So that was not an issue today.
Just to piggyback off, I know you said that every day that you're having the parent, you're gonna have those like forms and see that if they've been exposed. Will you daily kind of do a system check with all the schools saying that, hey, do you know anyone that has been exposed, and will those be released daily on a daily basis so parents and everyone can know?
Well, we're gathering that information, and if there is anyone that answers yes, that's there, that would go to our district command office, and what will happen then is they will end up verifying, is it a true situation that they have been exposed or tested positive, and then we'll work backwards on the contact tracing. But yes, they'll keep those documents just temporarily, and if we don't have anything positive from it, but we're looking at maybe making an app or doing some other electronic ways, but we really do need to ask those probing questions every day for the remainder of the school year, because we know it's fluid, and just because they've had no exposure or no problem today doesn't mean that 3 days from now or a week from now it could be different.
And one more question, because the superintendent has a 1 o'clock meeting, she has to be prepared for it.
Did you have a chance to talk to teachers, and did they express any concerns? I know only a few hours in, but did they say anything to you?
I saw a number of teachers in their classrooms today. They all seem very happy to be back and working with their students. I'm going to tell you, one of the cutest things I saw today was at Palm View, a kindergarten class. He had decorated each one of the desks as a Jeep, and it had sight words as the license plate in front of every one of those Jeeps. The Jeeps was kind of made out of cardboard. And I walked in and they were doing their like exercise with a video board. And they're little kindergartners. They were dancing and having the best time. And it just seemed like such a happy place to be. And that's what I saw. I think for the most part, people that have chosen to come back were happy to be back.
And I would just echo the same thing. What I saw from the parents is they seemed glad to have their kids walking into school. And so
Yeah, they did a little, I'm sure a little anxious, like you said, they normally walk their children in. So there was a little bit of that hesitation, but they were taking pictures and seeing them off for their first day of school for the year. So It was very positive, all the things that I saw this morning.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.